Namaste, guys. I am Dr. Anushruti and I am back with another blockbuster. Today, I have someone who's very energetic, athletic, and beautiful. Dr. Meghan Barrington joining live from United States to speak to us on fitness and health. Hello, Dr. Meghan. How are you?
Thank you so much. That was such a nice introduction. I'm doing really well. How are you doing today or
I
tonight?
am fine. I am fine.
Good.
What is the time right now in your country?
It is 7:30 a.m. where I am currently. I'm in Washington
Okay.
State, so on the West
Okay.
Coast.
Okay. And we are in the night in India.
Yes.
Well, starting with the first thing, what do you think is the first step to bring into fitness in one's daily regime? People, especially the viewers and listeners, everyone who's watching and listening to us on various social media platforms, we do have a lot of people who do not have a physical routine, a physical fitness routine, or daily habit routine. So, what do you want to suggest them to have or to bring into fitness in their life, like some little baby steps for them?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially like right now at the beginning of the year when everybody, sets their New Year's goals, or a lot of people do. I think the biggest thing is in order to get more fit and more healthy, you just need to be doing more than you're currently doing. So if you're doing nothing, then even just like a 10-minute walk, or especially because the smaller bites you kind of take off, the more you're going to be able to succeed, which is going to build confidence, which is going to help you kind of get more momentum and be able to actually establish habits. Excuse me. So that would be my first suggestion. My second suggestion would be, I know the reason that you wanted to talk to me is mostly about like resistance training or strength training. So with weights. And I personally think that is a huge ticket to longevity for every person. I think everyone should be doing some sort of resistance training in some capacity. It doesn't have to be, with barbells. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go out and be like a power lifter or anything like that. But it's great for bone density. It's great for hormonal health. It's great for cardiovascular health. It's great for so many different things. And I just think that a lot of people they think, oh, it's not for me, but I really truly think it's for everyone, especially with how our lives are these days. Like we are not required to do a lot of like physical activity within our lives, just, with how technology pretty much does everything for us now. So that would be another thing that I would say someone to focus on once they've kind of gotten that momentum a little bit.
So can we say that one of the myths, the biggest myths like people have is that if you want to get fit, if you want to become, healthy, you need to hit the gym. So can we say that this is just a myth and you can start at your home, at your place, and right now, today itself?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Actually, I have a lot of clients that I train or have coached like just with home workouts. There's so much you can do with body weight. And even just like I said before, like walking is one of the best things that we can do just for overall health. Like we're humans, we're bipedal, we're supposed to walk. Like we
Yeah,
evolved to
exactly.
walk.
Even before
So
in all the webinars and in this live sessions, I have always encountered this question walking.
yes.
People do not know that their body, human body, is made to move. It is
Hmm.
not supposed to be in stationary position for a very long time, and they do often forget this thing that it is made to move, and what they do is they make it and keep it in rest for a very very long time. One more thing, Dr. Megan, while you're speaking about walking, in India, specifically in India, people have a habit of walking after having dinner.
Hmm.
I do hope that would be prevalent in United States as well. Right after having their dinner, what they do is they start walking. What are your views on this? Like, what do you want to suggest them? Should they walk in night after having their supper, or should they opt it for the early morning walk? Like, how should they do it?
Well, the biggest thing is to do it when you can. So when you can do it consistently, but I love that habit. I actually try to implement that myself. It's not always feasible, which is why I say just do it whenever you can. But walking after a meal is actually one of the best ways to like kind of, it's almost like it kickstarts the digestion process, because actually using our hip flexors, so one of the muscles that we use when we walk, that actually kind of massages our insides when we use our diaphragm, which is to breathe. And when we're breathing heavier because we're moving, that massages our insides. So it's literally facilitating our digestion, and it can improve digestion a lot. like you'll notice like some people, if you travel and you know have a long flight, for example, from India to the United States or vice versa, a lot of people have trouble with their digestion after because they've
Absolutely, yeah.
literally been sitting still for
Mm.
14 hours or however long that flight is. So yeah, I love that habit as long as you're safe. Obviously, I don't know like how India is at night or where different spots are. That's the biggest thing. But even just like a 10-minute walk, and if you do that after, say you eat 3 meals a day, you do like a 10-minute walk after every meal. That's 30 minutes of exercise. That's already like better than what most people are doing. So yeah, I love that. That's a great habit. I
So
wish we did that here.
diet, yeah. So good diet and exercise move hand in hand for being
Oh
healthy.
yes,
Or
yes.
is it like having a lot of junk? Because we do have a lot of viewers and listeners who have this habit of consuming junks throughout the
Hmm.
day, throughout the month, and then believing I am exercising, so I do have to lose weight. I can eat anything. Please suggest them something about this.
Yeah, sorry guys, but you cannot outwork a bad diet. And first of all, like if you have goals to get strong or to change your body composition, you're basically spinning your wheels if you're not like providing your body the nutrients that it needs to recover and adapt. I actually recently just made a post about this. Um, but not only that, but like you're basically, it's almost like you're confusing your body. Like you're telling it like, hey, let's exercise and be healthy, but then you're, binge drinking on the weekends, or just eating junk all the time, like processed food, like just lots of sugar and just things that don't really like serve us. Like there's definitely a time and a place for these things. And I by no means am like an advocate of restrictive diets. Like I think that you should be 90%, 80% fueling your body, like your food has purpose, and then the other 20% like because you just enjoy something. So like no one should cut something out of their diet completely, in my opinion. But I know right now is a time when everyone has just come out of the holidays and has been just, there's so many different opportunities and options to eat poorly. So I think a lot of people are feeling that sort of guilt now. So it's just like with implementing exercise, like you want to just start slow. You don't want to just like overhaul things completely, although that can work for some people. But what I would suggest is if you're like in like sort of a diet rut where you're just like eating junk all the time, try, instead of like eliminating a bunch of things, try to add things. So like add, for example, like if say you get no vegetables in your day, or say you get no protein in your day, like you're not eating a balanced diet at all, try to just add those things and think about getting those first, make that your priority, and then you're naturally not going to have as much room for the other junk that you have been eating just because it's there.
Absolutely. This is something I believe that everyone is going to watch on repeat, going back and listen this again because this is very important. Moving ahead, Dr. Megan, what exactly is strength training? Since you specialize in strength training, I would like to make my audience aware about strength training. What is it?
Yeah, so it's twofold, or I mean it's multifold, but the biggest things are you're training your muscles and your bones to get stronger and more resilient so that they can manage more load, but you're also training your nervous system to be able to manage more load and get stronger. So the benefits of that, for example, say you are a mother and you have a child who used to be small and now they're big and they still want to be held. You're able to pick them up off the floor without even thinking about it, whereas if you don't do anything to keep yourself strong on a daily basis or a weekly basis, then those daily activities are going to be difficult. Like I meet so many um geriatric or elderly people who they can't pick up like a bag of flour that's 10 pounds or 4 kilos or whatever that is, um like off of a table because
Yeah.
it's heavy. It's heavy to them. Every heavy is relative, I mean within reason. So if you not
Absolutely. Like
people can't pick
a
up a car, but
bottle, a water bottle can be heavy for an infant, a toddler.
yes.
The same would be very light for an adult or, the older adult. And same could be, we said could be heavier for the geriatric people. Obviously, that is relatable. Heaviness and lightness is quite variable in every part.
Yes, and you can train it. Like it's something you can train, just like literally anything that you want to get good at. If you practice it regularly and just increase the difficulty in different ways, like just incrementally, not so much that you hurt yourself or that you can't recover, but so that your body is like, oh, it seems like I'm doing this a lot. I should probably, you know, adapt so that I can do it without having it be so taxing on me. So it's literally like anything. Like we don't realize it a lot of the time, but all of the things that we do throughout the day, like our habits that we don't have to think about, that are on autopilot, our brain is really good at learning things so that they can become automatic. Because if we had to think about everything, like we would literally explode and we'd be exhausted
Yeah.
all the time. So that's how strength training works too. Like, you know, the more that you practice, the more you use a muscle, any muscle, the better it's going to be, the more efficient it's going to get, the stronger it's going to get. So it's really, really cool how you can literally, like, you can build your body, you can train it to look a certain way and to be able to do certain things just by simply practicing them. So
The best part, what you just said, the best part out of it was strength training for geriatric people. I mean, that's absolutely mesmerizing. The geriatric population also practice this strength training programs and exercises. So, all the viewers and listeners who are watching and listening us, come on, guys. If geriatric phase, the older people can do this, why can't you? Definitely you can. I and Dr. Meghan definitely believe this, that you definitely can do this and start your strength training today. Dr. Meghan, another thing with strength training comes strength training specifically in most of the cases happens in a gym. So
mhm.
there are chances of gym injuries and whatnot, some sprain, strain, and tears. So how does physical therapist plays a role in this? The injury
Yeah.
prevention and cure.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because there's currently this whole, you know, argument of quote unquote bridging the gap. So
Yeah.
between like, you know, training when you're healthy and training when you're or not, or being in physical therapy, like there's this big old like bridge between them. Whereas I don't believe that it should be there at all. I
I
think
am shocked that
um
this is prevailing in United States as well. I mean, that's
oh
quite shocking for me. I was thinking that this
yeah,
is just prevalent in my country or in Asia, but yeah, the world
everywhere.
is everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I can't remember, this is definitely a quote from someone, I don't know who it is, I can't remember who it was, but basically, you know, rehab is just training in the presence of an injury. So
Yeah.
everyone should have some sort of resistance training, excuse me, practice in their life. But, you know, I have injuries. Like, I know how my body works for the most part. I'm always learning. But like I have injuries that I deal with, you know, and you don't like stop training. You can either train yourself out of an injury by like just incrementally increasing resistance and incrementally like, you know, rewiring patterns. Like pain is completely generated by our brain. I mean, you're going to have, if you have tissue damage, obviously it's going to hurt. But like, say, for example, you're walking across the street and you sprain your ankle, it's going to hurt. But if you sprain your ankle and then there's also a bus coming that's going to hit you, you're probably
Yeah.
not going to feel your ankle because priority is not dying, right? So, I mean, our brain decides if something's going to hurt or not. That's why we tend to have more pain when we're stressed, more pain when we, you know, have other things going on that just allow us to think about that pain. But I don't think there should be like, I don't think people who are injured should be scared to move. I think that they should want to work with someone who can teach them how to manage their pain and how to potentially like completely eliminate it, or just learn about their body, because pain is scary. Like if you hurt, you're like, oh my gosh, is this it? Am I like injured for life? Am I never going to get better? Or am I dying in some
And
cases?
there is
Um,
also that demotivating factor that I'm not going to do this again.
Yeah, yeah, it's scary. And like I think that the more that we teach like physical therapy, my favorite thing about it and what I'm so excited to be doing as a clinician is that you are empowering people. You're literally teaching them to not need you. Like you're not just like a clinician or a therapist, you're literally like a coach and a teammate for them. So it's a 50-50 thing. Like if I'm doing all the work as the PT, like teaching you things or like helping you, maybe doing some manual therapy, and as the client you're not doing anything, like you're not going to get better, like period.
Absolutely,
Like
yeah.
or you will get better and then you'll like go back into where you were.
Hand in
Whereas if
hand, it
you
goes both the ways.
Yeah, and so that's what I think is so powerful, and that is another reason why in the United States it is difficult to like get everyone on board with like PT being, you know, better than surgery in some cases. In some cases surgery is 100% needed. Sometimes it's both. Actually it's usually both, because surgery is another injury that you should be rehabbing out of. That's another soapbox. But yeah, I mean, I just think that if we were to switch our mindset to like, instead of being a victim mentality to being like, okay, let's learn about this and let's empower ourselves and be willing to work to get better from it because it's good for our health to move. I think that we would be really successful with just getting people, less fearful of any kind of
Yeah.
pain. And pain is also relative. Like if, for example, if you work with someone, you train them and they've never worked out in their life before and their muscles are sore the next day, they're going to think they're injured because that's not their baseline,
Yeah.
right? But that's totally expected. Unfortunately, if you work a muscle and it hasn't worked in a long time, um, you're going to get some soreness. So yeah.
I love the examples and instances you just provide us, like that are great, and absolutely it made everything easier to understand. Dr. Megan will agree with one thing that people often see workout videos, the gym videos and heavy lifting videos, strength training, athletic training videos. On the
Mhm.
first view, it really looks scary. Like for people who haven't attempted it once, it looks like I am gonna die lifting this, or this is something that takes a lot of energy, a lot of weight. So for those kind of people, what can you do? Like, is there a way you can make them a simple workout routine right now that they can follow like very easily for just for in the beginning?
Yeah, yeah. Those are actually some of my favorite people to work with because, you might see something crazy that I do or that some other trainer does. There are always regressions. And a good trainer is going to know, first of all, when you need it. And a regression is basically just the same pattern, same idea, but maybe slower or less range of motion or a different kind of load. And there's so many different ways. Like you essentially can, this might sound like not great, but essentially like a trainer or a clinician is sort of like a puppeteer and the client is like
Yeah,
a puppet. So you can get them to do what you want them to do by just, loading them differently or telling them something different as far as a
giving the
cue.
instructions.
Yes, yes. And a lot of the time, like actually most of the time, external cues are better than internal. So if you tell
Yeah,
someone like squeeze your glutes, which is like one of my least favorite cues ever, because most people that you're telling that to like don't, that doesn't register for them. That's why
yeah.
they're in your hands. But if you tell them like, push your knees this way or
Mhm.
like do like go push your butt towards this thing, like that is better. Usually those external cues, like giving them
We
something
can say the
outside
layman
of their body.
language.
Yeah, yeah. And I've worked with, this is some of the most difficult people that I've worked with have been actually there. I had a deaf patient. Um,
Oh,
and for some reason there were no, like I work with a lot of patients that don't speak English and we just have an interpreter and it's slower, but you can get things done because you can
yeah.
communicate through the interpreter. But with this woman, I didn't have, like, there were no sign language interpreters. So I literally had to like write everything down, which is not too big of a deal, but I would have to like mime what I wanted her to do. And then she would try to mimic it. And then I'd have to write it down to tell her if she was doing it right. Like it's
Yeah.
so like it is all communication. And movement is communication too. So yeah, you can definitely
The-
regress
Yeah.
everything.
So, Dr. Megan, with this, I would like to ask another question. Like, physical therapist or physical therapy usually tends to have, involvement of modalities like IFT, TENS, and electrotherapy, hot pack, cold packs, and whatnot. But do you
Mhm.
believe that physical therapy is a lot more than just these modalities? What people have
It better
often
be.
tend to do, like made physical therapist or physiotherapist in a certain bracket. What they do is they just practice with some machines, some modalities, and yeah, that's all physical therapy. Please clear this
Mhm.
air.
Yes, I would love to. Um, so modalities can be useful. Some of them are completely useless, but many of them are very useful for pain modulation. At times, like you do like some contrast baths, so hot and cold back and forth. You can actually like increase blood flow and help with swelling. In that case, and help with recovery. But for the most part, modalities are solely for pain, like helping with pain. So in some ways, it's very valuable because if someone is in pain, like a huge part of PT is getting buy-in. So if someone like is always in pain from day one when you're working with them, then they're probably not going to trust you very much. So
Mhm.
sometimes the modality can be useful, just to sort of like give them a tool that is like it's almost like a band-aid, a temporary band-aid while you
Yeah.
work on the actual like cause of their issue, versus just treating the symptoms. But I think it's really, really important, just like I was saying before, to communicate with the person and tell them like, this is not fixing you. This is literally like a band-aid. Although like after post-operatively, for example, when muscles are super atrophied, there are like electrical stimulation units that you can use to help sort of
Yeah.
help that muscle contract, because their brain is having a hard time contracting it. So that can be valuable as well. There's certain things that are very valuable, but they're a tool, and if you don't have them, it's not a big deal. But if you only use them, it's a huge deal, and you're probably not going to get anybody better. So those are my thoughts.
In a nutshell, physical therapy has really evolved a lot in these times,
Yes,
like a lot in all the parts of the world. I have witnessed personally, and speaking to doctors like you, I got an idea that physical therapy is a lot more than just these modalities, what people think. It is like
for sure.
it eventually takes a lot of time to become a doctor of physical therapy.
It does. And then once you become one, you're like, I don't know anything. I need more practice.
Absolutely. Okay, well, this is a segment of the last section, but since we are talking about this, I would like to bring it a little earlier. Dr. Meghan, what happens in my Dr. Anushruti show is we always tend to have a token of appreciation and motivation for aspiring doctors, especially aspiring physical therapists, who are studying in United States, in India, or the other countries. What do you want to speak to them? What do you want to say them that how should they study? And every student has a doubt, eventually when we were studying, we also had this, whether this line is good or whether this career is good for me. Can I be a good doctor or physical therapist? Or since it is a very long journey, so a few words for them.
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing I would say is whenever you're doubting like whether it's the right path for you, just ask yourself why. Like what is your bottom line why? What is it that first put you on this path, like made you want to do this? And I mean, maybe you're on the wrong path. I doubt it, especially if you chose it, but just like if you're able to just like always come back to your why when things get hard, because school is not fun. Like at all. I mean, it's fun because you meet friends and like good, amazing faculty and things, but it's draining 100%. So
Yeah.
always go back to your why and just remember that every day. Remember that you're choosing it. You are choosing to do it. It's a privilege to be able to be educated. And like no one, even though it's difficult, like no one's making you do it. Like you are literally choosing to be here and you have the total capability of doing it. And then the last thing I would say is it can be really daunting to look at the entire journey. So what I always did is just take what was in front of me and just try to give 100% effort and just put my heart into that. So eventually it seems like really scary if you just think of like all the days you're going to have to
Yeah.
continue to do that. But if you just focus on the day you're in, like just like a workout, like I just focus on getting 1% better within that workout, even if today's effort is not the same as yesterday's, because, I didn't get good sleep, or like maybe I'm more stressed about something else. Like I just think if you put forth whatever your 100% is for that day, that's what's going to get you to where you want to go.
All the dear students listening and watching us from United States, India, and various other countries, do give a heed to it. Focus on today, focus on right now, and do not overthink. I would repeat it, do not overthink about your future. That is going to be very bright. Moving ahead, Dr. Megan, we do have a lot of pregnant women. And in
Mm-hmm.
many countries, there is a habit that women are still not aware about prenatal exercises they ought to do, that is eventually good for them in the delivery case and also good for the baby's health. So, what do you wish to say to them? Like, is there a specific exercise you would like to tell or a specific routine to these young pregnant ladies? What is it?
Yeah. So it's interesting topic, because I think we used to think certain things and we eventually evolved to say like, oh, it's not dangerous to exercise during pregnancy.
Yeah.
What I would recommend, and this is a population that I am really passionate about wanting to work with, but I would say if you were exercising prior to your pregnancy, I mean, it is not dangerous to continue to exercise unless if you have like preeclampsia or some other sort of weird condition, like you're obviously going to be working with your doctor, your MD on that. but for the most part, like it is actually good for you to continue, especially because as you're growing another human inside you, you may feel like you're losing yourself. So it's important to continue to be yourself, and also just for the health of your baby, because your body, the environment the baby was like conceived in is your body, and you want to
Yeah.
continue to, do the things that you were doing before, obviously with modification as necessary. But I would say if you have never exercised before, it's not good to not exercise during pregnancy. Like, you should always be moving. But I would say if you've never exercised, I would say it's not a great time to like start a crazy
Mhm.
routine. Like, don't start doing CrossFit when you get pregnant if you've never exercised before in your life.
Yeah.
But like we can go back to that walking thing. Like, start walking or start doing some like prenatal yoga, or find like either a post like a personal trainer that is certified and well practiced in working with women in pregnancy, because they're going to have I can't just give you a routine that every pregnant woman should have, because everyone is different,
Absolutely.
and every case is different, but in general, I mean, the fitter you are, the easier, well, not necessarily, mostly the easier that labor is going to be, because labor, I've watched my best friend go through labor at home with zero like medical interventions, and it is, I mean, it's a feat. It is an athletic feat. So
Yeah.
the fitter you are, the more your body is going to, be able to work with you on those things. And obviously, things can happen, like the body does some crazy things during pregnancy. Obviously, you're changing. So there's definitely different cases, but for the most part, like, being fit is never going to be negative, ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last but not the least, balance and posture. These two
Mhm.
things are something that go hand in hand, and usually people talk a lot about it. So, just a quick snapshot of this balance and posture, some exercises of how actually people can take a look on it.
Yeah. So posture, there's no like perfect posture. We say like the best posture is your next posture. So being in one position, whether it's like sitting upright, but good posture, quote unquote, if you're like that all the time, it's also not good. So I would say, with as far as posture goes, if you are moving in all planes of motion, so sagittal plane, transverse plane, frontal plane, um, especially if you're strength training through like
Yeah.
good range of motion, I think posture will take care of itself. Um, and then as far as balance goes, like, a lot of people, you lose balance as you get older, and I think in large part it's because once you stop using things, they obviously, it's expensive to keep muscle, and a lot of our balance is going to come from muscle and being able to like react to things when, our body all of a sudden, there's a dog that jumped out, or oh, I slipped on some ice or whatever. Like, being able to recover quickly is a lot in large parts like our nervous system being able to respond, but also our muscles being able to respond. And when we don't use them on a regular basis, like, they're going to get sort of dormant and atrophied. So I mean, we go back to strength training for this one. I think that balance and posture are both going to improve with good strength training through the range of motion that you're able to control. Because a lot of people, another myth is that people think that strength training makes you really tight, and it doesn't. If you strength train through like a tiny range of motion and always do that, like, yeah, it's going to make you tight because you don't know how to move anywhere else. But if you're working on like full range of motion, it's a great way to just give your body more range that it has like able to control. So those are my thoughts.
Absolutely great. I mean, this is what people would be waiting for, and this is going to be a blockbuster. Answered everything so clearly. And yeah, a lot of doubts of people, of our viewers and listeners, would have been cleared till now. Thank you so much, Dr. Meghan, for taking out time from your schedule to discuss this important topic. And I really look forward to do more of such beneficial and fruitful discussions with you in the near future. I do
It's my
hope you would
pleasure.
have enjoyed it as much as our audience had enjoyed it listening to us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Dr. Megan. Thank you so much. And guys, do comment down what next video do you wish me to upload, what topic, and what are your queries and questions for the next speaker. Also, give some suggestions of the topics and questions that Dr. Megan and I should continue doing together. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.